Christopher Nolan is spending $250 million to adapt the Odyssey this summer, and I need everyone to know that a cartoon sponge already did it in 2004 for a fraction of the budget, and, honestly, arguably did it better. I'm not joking. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie isn't just loosely inspired by Homer's Odyssey, it is a genuine adaptation. Beat for beat, character for character, trial for trial, the 2004 SpongeBob movie follows the structure of one of the oldest stories in human history and hides it behind fart jokes in a David Hasselhoff cameo. Steven Hillenburg was a genius, and I'm about to prove it. So for anyone who slept through English class, here's the quick version of the Odyssey. Odysseus is the king of Ithaca, a Greek warrior who fought in the Trojan War. After the war ends, he tries to sail home to his wife Penelope and his son Telemachus. But he's pissed off Poseidon, the god of the sea, and Poseidon makes his journey home a living nightmare. Along the way, Odysseus faces monsters, temptations, divine intervention, and a 10-year detour that tests everything he is. The whole story is framed as a tale being told to an audience, a story within a story, and the central question is whether a man can hold on to his identity after everything he's been through. Now here's the SpongeBob version. SpongeBob is a fry cook in Bikini Bottom who wants to be manager of the Krusty Krab. 2. He doesn't get the job because Mr. Krabs says he's just a kid. Then King Neptune's crown gets stolen by Plankton and planted in Shell City, and Neptune blames Mr. Krabs and freezes him solid. SpongeBob and Patrick volunteer to retrieve the crown to save Mr. Krabs, and they set off on an epic journey across the ocean floor, while back home, Plankton takes over Bikini Bottom using mind control bucket helmets. On the surface, these sound like completely different stories, right? One is an ancient Greek epic about war, gods, and the human condition, and the other is about a talking sponge and his best friend who is a starfish. But when you line them up side by side, the parallels are so specific and so consistent that there is no way they're accidental. Let me walk you through every single one. The first and most obvious parallel is the inciting incident. In the Odyssey, the entire journey happens because Odysseus angered Poseidon, the god of the sea. Poseidon's wrath is what turns a simple trip home into a decade-long nightmare. In the SpongeBob movie, the journey happens because SpongeBob incurs the wrath of King Neptune, who is literally the Roman equivalent of Poseidon. Neptune accuses Mr. Krabs of stealing his crown and threatens to execute him unless it's returned. SpongeBob's quest to Shell City begins the exact same way Odysseus's quest begins, with an angry god of the sea setting the whole thing in motion. Hillenburg didn't even try to hide this one. He just swapped Poseidon for Neptune and kept it moving. Second parallel, the divine helper. In the Odyssey, Odysseus has Athena, the goddess of wisdom, watching over him. Athena is the daughter of Zeus, and she repeatedly intervenes on Odysseus's behalf, pleading with her father to help him, guiding him through dangers, and giving him the tools he needs to survive. In the SpongeBob movie, SpongeBob has Princess Mindy. Mindy is the daughter of King Neptune. She believes in SpongeBob when nobody else does. She pleads with her father to spare Mr. Krabs, and she gives SpongeBob and Patrick the confidence to keep going when they want to quit. And here's the kicker. Her name? Mindy. Sounds an awful lot like Minerva, which is the Roman name for Athena. Daughter of the sea god, advocate for the hero, divine protector. That's Athena. That's Mindy. Same character, different outfit. Now the third parallel is the one that made me pause the movie and actually stare at my screen because it is so direct that it feels like Hillenburg was daring someone to notice. In the Odyssey, the god Aeolus gives Odysseus a bag containing all the winds of the world. The idea is that Odysseus can use the bag to control the winds and sail home quickly. But while Odysseus sleeps, his crew opens the bag out of curiosity. The winds escape, and they're blown all the way back to where they started. It's one of the most famous moments in the entire epic, the idea that salvation was literally in their hands and they fumbled it. In the SpongeBob movie, Princess Mindy gives SpongeBob and Patrick a bag of winds to help them get home quickly after retrieving the crown. And what does Patrick do? He opens it too early. The winds escape. They're stranded. That is the same scene. Not inspired by, not a vague reference, the exact same scene. A divine helper gives the heroes a bag of winds. A companion opens it prematurely, and they lose their shortcut home. Hillenburg adapted a 2,800-year-old plot point and gave it to a starfish in swim trunks, and I cannot stop thinking about it. The Cyclops parallel is another huge one. In the Odyssey, Odysseus and his men are trapped in a cave by Polyphemus, a giant one-eyed Cyclops who eats several of the crew before Odysseus blinds him with a burning stake and escapes. In the SpongeBob movie, SpongeBob and Patrick are captured by a Cyclops, except the Cyclops is a human diver wearing an old-fashioned diving suit with a single round window on the helmet. one eye. He takes them to Shell City, which turns out to be a gift shop on the surface, and puts them under a heat lamp to dry them out. They're trapped by a giant one-eyed figure who plans to kill them, and they have to escape. The visual design of the diver is so clearly meant to evoke a Cyclops that it barely needs explaining. One round eye, massive compared to SpongeBob and Patrick, captures them in an enclosed space. That is Polyphemus in a wetsuit. The Sirens are handled more subtly, but they're definitely in there. In the Odyssey, the Sirens are creatures whose singing lures sailors to their deaths. The danger isn't that they're physically threatening, it's that they're completely irresistible. In the SpongeBob movie, SpongeBob and Patrick find a free ice cream stand in the middle of the ocean floor. Too good to be true, right? Of course it is, because the ice cream is actually the tongue of a massive deep-sea monster luring them in to eat them. And here's what's brilliant about Hillenburg's version. He translated the Sirens' appeal into something his audience would immediately understand. You don't need to explain why a sailor would be drawn to a beautiful song, but you also don't need to explain why SpongeBob and Patrick would walk toward free ice cream. The temptation is different, but the function is identical, something irresistible that exists solely to kill you. Now here's the parallel that ties everything together, and it's the one most people miss completely. In the Odyssey, while Odysseus is away on his journey, his home is taken over by suitors. These are men who've moved into his palace, eaten his food, harassed his wife, and essentially claimed his kingdom. The climax isn't just Odysseus getting home, it's Odysseus reclaiming his home from the people who stole it. In the SpongeBob movie, while SpongeBob is away, Bikini Bottom is taken over by Plankton. Plankton steals the formula, takes control of the Krusty Krab, and uses mind control helmets to enslave the entire population. The climax isn't just SpongeBob getting back with the crown, it's SpongeBob reclaiming his home from the villain who conquered it in his absence. Same narrative function. The suitors and Plankton are doing the exact same job in their respective stories. They're what makes the journey urgent. And in both cases, the hero returns just in time and defeats the usurper. Odysseus kills the suitors with his bow, and SpongeBob defeats Plankton with a guitar solo. Honestly, same energy. One more structural parallel, and this might be the smartest thing Hillenburg did with the whole adaptation. The Odyssey is not a straightforward narrative. It's a story within a story. The poem is structured as Odysseus telling his tale to the Phaeacians, so there's a layer of distance between the events and the audience listening. The SpongeBob movie does the same thing. It opens with a group of pirates who find a treasure chest containing tickets to the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, and they go to a theatre and watch the film. So the movie we're watching is being watched by pirates inside the movie. It's a story within a story. Hillenburg didn't just adapt the plot of the Odyssey, he adapted the way the story is told, and that is such a specific structural choice that it has to be intentional. Let me zoom out for a second, because this matters beyond just being fun trivia. Steven Hillenburg was a marine biologist before he was an animator. He created SpongeBob while studying at Cal Arts, and from the beginning the show operated on multiple levels. Kids watched it for the jokes, adults watched it for the sharp writing, and apparently literature scholars could watch it for the Greek mythology. The SpongeBob movie was supposed to be the series finale. Hillenburg intended for the show to end with this film, which is why it feels so much bigger and more intentional than a typical cartoon spin-off. He wasn't making a cash grab, he was telling the definitive SpongeBob story, and he chose to structure it as an Odyssey because the Odyssey is the definitive adventure story. It's the template that every journey narrative in Western culture is built on, from Lord of the Rings to Finding Nemo to Oh Brother Where Art Thou. And Hillenburg knew that if he was going to send SpongeBob on one last great adventure, it should follow the blueprint that started them all. And here's why this is especially relevant right now. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey comes out July 17th. It's being positioned as one of the biggest movies of the year, and it'll almost certainly be a technical achievement because Nolan doesn't miss when it comes to spectacle. But SpongeBob already proved something that Nolan will have to contend with. Adapting the Odyssey isn't about scale, it's about understanding why the story works. The monsters aren't the point, and the gods aren't the point. The point is a person trying to get home while the universe does everything in its power to stop them, and SpongeBob nailed that. A talking sponge in square pants captured the emotional core of a 2,800-year-old epic poem better than most serious adaptations have managed. And the fact that it works this well inside a movie where David Hasselhoff is used as a speedboat is genuinely one of the most impressive things in animation history. So when you sit down in the IMAX theatre this July to watch Nolan's version, just remember that a fry cook from Bikini Bottom got there first. And he did it with a bag of wins, a best friend who is a starfish, and a guitar solo that would make the ancient Greeks proud. If you learned something, hit subscribe. And seriously, go rewatch the SpongeBob movie, because I promise you will see it completely differently now. See you next time!